What's up everybody, Nick Brengle here, and today we're going to talk about how I made a movie with no budget, no real actors, limited gear, limited production design, and let's just get right into it.
Whether you're going up the ladder or down the ladder, your position is shaky. When you stand with both feet on the ground, you're always in balance. Less and less you have to force things. If you want to be whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to be straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to be full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you realize you have enough, you have everything. You are truly rich. Whoever can see through fear will always be safe. Hold on to the center. I only have three things to teach: simplicity, patience, and compassion. Simplicity in actions and thoughts return you to the source of being. Patience with your friends and your enemies put you in accord with the way things are. Compassion towards yourself reconciles you with all beings.
So this project started about 3 years ago, and the movie released December 31st, 2020. If you haven't watched it yet, please check out the link below. Go watch it, then come back and watch this video, because we're going to talk a little bit about the gear, the production, the locations, and some of the scenes, and a little more in depth of how we did what we did. And you'll also hear from one of my really good friends, Caleb Hargett, who directed one of the scenes, was in one of the scenes, and so get a perspective from somebody else besides me. And So I think we knew going into production of this movie that we were going to take a very unorthodox approach when it came to the talent, the actors that were going to be in front of the camera, including myself. And we wanted it to really be a communal experience. We wanted to bring our friends and family, whoever it was, in front of the camera into this process, because this film was a cathartic, therapeutic experience, I think, for me and Marie and everybody involved, from when we started writing this all the way up to releasing it. And so it was important to us that everybody kind of understood where we were coming from with each scene, and that it was very abstract, and that you sort of needed to let yourself go a little bit to really become involved in the process. And I think everybody did that, which was just incredible. Every scene had a very organic, free-flowing fluidity to it, and everybody works differently, and so some people were less in tune with that type of workflow, but we made it work. We explained how the scene was supposed to undergo, and what our vision was for each scene, and then we sort of let the talent take it there. And the direction was limited, and it was more encouragement into whatever the feeling was in those scenes. And so for the talent, we had an array of actual artists to scientists, nurses, people that work for the EPA, myself, there's just all kinds of people, my wife, and it was just incredible to watch people who had never spoken in front of a camera, let alone had paint thrown on them, or crying, or telling the truth of reality on camera and giving that out to the world.. world. That was a special experience for me. So.
When you stand with both feet on the ground, you're always in balance. Less and less you have to force things. If you want to be whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to be full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die.
So when it came to directing and really moving through this production, it wasn't just me that was, in the chair and moving everything along. Marie did a lot, and Caleb obviously was involved in several scenes as well. And so we wanted to approach this with a collaborating feel, especially with the talent. So letting them know our vision for the moment and what we wanted to do, but then letting them take it wherever they needed to go. And we just let that happen. There wasn't a lot of takes. There wasn't a whole bunch of bloopers or let's start over, bring it back to one. None of that. We really just let things happen and captured it as it was in the moment. And that's what you're seeing. And to me, that is what holds the biggest weight, is when I watch this film or see these scenes over again, that I know in the moment that these people, one, never have done this before, and two, they had to just become something and be themselves in the most sense of the word. They really had to embrace whatever was happening in that moment. And I want to throw it over to Caleb now. He's going to talk about a few things he was involved in, mainly the therapy scene where I just lay it all out there. So let's let Caleb talk about that.
I guess it starts for me. I get this call from Nick one day. He's just like, "Hey man, I have this scene that I'd like you to shoot for all of ours." And essentially it's just this, I'm in this therapy session and Diana's my therapist. Are you in? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm in. Yeah, let's do this. And of course I have a lot of questions at this point, but I'm just trusting the process with Nick, because we've done enough work together and we have enough work on our belts together at this point to I know that when he's in the director role, a lot of times he likes to work a little bit more in the moment. He kind of rolls with the punches on set and kind of develops things. Again, just kind of like in the moment and as they come. Talking with him within the last year when they were writing this and kind of learning about different things they were writing, I knew the language of the film a little bit and kind of knew that he was going with this approach. I show up first day to shoot, and when I show up on set, basically I learned that this scene is essentially going to be a real therapy session. Nick is going to basically really, go through and try to work through something, and Diana's just going to push him until he gets there, or until he goes there, and we're just going to stay there until he goes there. As soon as I learned that, I'm just sitting there like, okay, how can I, be as a DP, shoot this and be as out of the way as possible and just kind of fade, just be invisible, almost to these two, so they can just kind of get in it and get real, because usually when you have a dialogue scene with an actor, you're actually, it's more of a dance between the cinematographer or the cameraman and the actor to get that performance. But again, when this is like, we're going like real, the key is to kind of, for me to just back off and literally set it up so that as a viewer, and even as the way I operate it, is we're just kind of peering in and just going to get to watch something unfold. I immediately, again, I'm still thinking like, how can I be as less intrusive as I possibly can. So luckily we decided to light this scene with just a single source top-down light. The light spill is probably it's like maybe 10 to 12 feet, which is just enough space for me to be able to lock 2 cameras off on tripods, again, and have them actually in the shadows, so that, again, I'm able to operate those, and the cameras themselves are not distracting and not like in the sight of the 2 actors. So so we have that going. Again, 2 cameras locked up on tripods, and they're just up on site. Again, that also allows me, since I'm now in the shadows and totally working this like stealth workflow, I can run back and forth between both cameras and kind of still be able to operate those and not be as distracting. And then I guess we get into the angles. Like, I shot the angle that is on Diana, since she's the therapist. That angle is more where the camera is just at eye level with her, because we're not really trying to figure out or learn anything about her character. It's just like a neutral character. And then on Nick, who's basically working through stuff. He's the patient. I shot. It's a little bit more at a down angle, like we're looking towards him. It's basically, it makes, his character feel a little bit more, or seem a little more vulnerable, and it's a less dominant angle. It makes the character look a lot less, dominant. That's kind of it. Like, we kept it simple because ultimately, you wanted the performance to create the atmosphere of the room and the atmosphere of the scene, versus keep camera movement and all that kind of stuff out of it. Because again, it is how we shot it, but we do also want this to feel like you're just getting to eavesdrop and kind of peer into this very vulnerable moment, not necessarily be there, again, just eavesdropping on it.
So when it came to the gear with all of ours, we wanted to keep it as minimal and simple as possible because we didn't want it to distract from shooting, especially with a bunch of people who have never been in front of a camera and are a little intimidated and being vulnerable, and so we wanted to keep it simple. So pretty much the entirety of the film was shot with, it was single camera, the Sony A7S Mark II, and we wanted to keep it that way mainly because of, we didn't want to rent a bunch of big cameras and then have some big crew and worry about just so many other obstacles to get around. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible. We wanted to keep it as fluid as possible so that we could just shoot and move on. It wasn't as much about the gear. It was about who was in front of the camera, the story that they were trying to share, the art that they were trying to let you come into, and so we kept it as simple as we could. So the Sony A7S Mark II was the camera for all of the scenes except for the therapy scene. We used some A7S or A7 IIIs, and in one of the scenes we actually shot with the Blackmagic Pocket because we shot it way later. So that's pretty much for the cameras what we did. Hold on just a second. As for lenses, we, again, kept it as simple as we could. Canon FD vintage lenses and a few SLR micro primes. And that's really what we did. We kind of stuck in that wide range, anywhere from 25 to 35 millimeter, with the exception of a few that were shot with a 50 millimeter lens. And again, the choice there was just to not be distracted by gear and just let things happen. Lighting, very minimal. I think that we maybe used lights in 2 scenes, maybe 3 scenes. I can't even remember. I really wanted to stick to as much natural light as possible and just leaving things as they are. And that also brought in a few challenges, you know, what time of day we were shooting, what locations, and just how we, you know, blocked the scenes and which direction we shot using the sun or any natural light or practical light that was available to us. Talking about the gear, you know, post-production and looking back on the past couple of years, shooting all of these scenes and then kind of letting things sit for a long time and then sitting with it in front of me and editing the film, it really brings into perspective just the things that I talk about on a regular basis here on YouTube, and that, you know, gear is gear. They're just tools. They're not going to change your life. They're not going to make it suddenly better. You still have to have a little bit of an eye, a little bit of a heart in what you're doing, and you really have to believe in the project, whether it's client work or your own passion work or making videos here on YouTube. You really need to be the best version of what you want to be and what you want to bring out in your work, because you can shoot on any camera and it might look like crap, but if you believe in it and you've really thought through what you want to show, that's going to come through. And most people aren't really interested in what the movie was shot on, so just nerds like me. But to bring it back to some of the gear, the lighting, even though we really didn't use much, there was a scene in particular, the trauma scene, that Caleb and I actually kind of teamed up on, and I'm going to let him talk more about how that all went down.
Oh man, so the trauma scene. I basically worked the lighting on that scene, and it was fun, cool, and different. Like Nick had basically come to me and said, like, hey man, we're gonna be in a black, in a dark room, and I just want this light to kind of follow and just kind of hover the action and whatnot, and kind of, just kind of work in tandem with the camera. So the way we did that, we took a friggin' lights, like a C-stand arm, and just took it's like one of those little bitty, like, it's like the aperture AL-MX, I think that's what it is. Basically we just kind of strapped that to, I don't even think it was like screwed onto. I literally think to help is like gaff taped onto it. Like we gaffed it on, and then basically, I kind of ran with Nick and just kind of, tried to make sure. But also, it is kind of like a dance, because that scene is they're doing so much, there's so much like awkward movement and things that it wasn't so much about just shooting in the shadow and everything. The light has its own character, kind of in this too. It's dancing around just as much as the people and the camera. So again, it just kind of breaks a lot of rules. It had to be pretty comical. If I could have been an outsider looking in, that would have been probably a pretty interesting thing to look at. But it's actually simple, but it's pretty complex. When we were actually doing it, the talk back and forth between me and Nick, it's like, oh, okay, no, like, go back, go up, go down, up, down. And while also hearing these funny grunts and things from the two actors, because they're like climbing all over each other and holding one another. So it was a fun scene.
So another aspect of the production that I wanted to touch on a little bit was all of the locations that we were able to shoot at. We had the ability to be in so many awesome locations that, yeah.
Can you shovel the snow off the deck?
Oh boy. Hold on just a second. So when it comes to locations, we were able to shoot in a variety of different places due to the fact that we just know a bunch of cool people. So we were able to be in coffee shops, bars, Malcolm X Park, just the streets of DC, people's apartments, their homes, and that really cut down on a lot of the stress to thinking about where we were going to be, how we were going to do it, renting spaces like shopkeepers. We shot multiple scenes in there, and it's a basement, it's dark down there, so we were able to just have free range and shoot whatever we wanted down there, and no one bothered us. So when it came to editing this film and putting it all together and working with a collection of so many different files, from video files to music to color grading, and just so many assets that went into the layers and the complexity to editing even a simple no budget film, there was a lot of obstacles to get around. One was the fact that this film probably totaled close to 6 terabytes of footage. And that's with most of it being shot in H.264, some of it shot in ProRes coming out of the Ninja 5 through the A7S Mark II. And so it was a huge challenge to put the files where they need to be and have the correct space to work on a project this size. It's been years since I worked on a project with so many different things going on, and so it was really important to keep everything structured and know where everything's at, work scene by scene. And I kind of had a process of moving through the film with certain things in mind, and then I'd go back, start over, with music and just little things that we wanted to add, color for the different scenes, because every individual scene has its own life, has its own individuality, but there's something that complements all of them together in harmony. And so I hope that that's something that carries over into other projects as well. Yeah. Okay, so I know this has been a very long video, but this is about as concise as we could get it. We could go on for hours talking about the production and how we made this and the people involved and how much I just love making these abstract, off-the-wall productions that make you think and kind of grip your heart and your soul and just have you think more about every single day that we are here in this life. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if there wasn't any questions that were answered, drop them down below. I love answering questions. Smash the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you've watched this whole video, please hit the subscribe button, or at least go watch some of my other videos, and go create something. We made this whole thing off of nothing, so I think you could go make something. So go do that, and we'll see you soon.